In accordance with Section 28 of the Police Services Act and our own procedural bylaw, the board is required to elect a chair and vice chair at its first meeting each year. I'd like to now open the floor to nominations for the position of chair, and I'll call for both a mover and a seconder.
I would like to move that Eli El-Shantari be the chair.
Seconded.
Are there any other nominations? I'd like to now call for a motion to close the nominations for the position of chair.
So moved.
So, Mr. Member El-Shantari, you are now the chair, and I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you very much, colleagues, for your nomination and your votes to continue on. So I'd like to call for a motion to elect the vice chair. Member Velikat, oui.
I would like to nominate Mr. Sandy Smallwood.
Okay, second.
I'd like to second that motion.
Any other nomination for a vice chair? Any other nomination? No, I would like to close the nomination. Motion to close the nomination, moved by Member Velikat.
Yes.
All in favor? The motion. Congratulations, Mr. Vice Chair. So, thank you. Thank you. That was, thank you. So we're gonna. So I see we do have the Ottawa Police Gala check presentation to the Big Brothers, Big Sisters in Ottawa and the Ottawa Victim Service. So I'll turn it over to the Chief and we'll meet you at the podium. Hello?
There we go, okay. Okay. So first of all, I want to thank our platinum sponsors, TELUS and the Barley Mow. We had another great successful year for our gala, and the gala is there to celebrate our members and the community and the great work that our members do each and every day. I want to thank our community co-chair, Michael Sangster, again, who was with us this gala for the gala this year's. Your gracefulness, your direction, your wisdom is always very much appreciated. And I want to thank Actor Inspector James Elv and Inspector Sandra McLaren for their leadership. This is their first year. They took over the gala and did a tremendous job. Folks, you know, so far we've raised over $735,000 to give back directly to the community and our local charities. And this year, I'm really pleased to give two amazing charities, each $45,000 for a total of $90,000. Susan Ingram is here from Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and Melissa Hunnert from Ottawa Victim Services is here as well. So can I ask those two ladies to come up here? There they are. So we'll start with Melissa. So Melissa, on behalf of the Ottawa Police Service and the members of our community, I'm pleased to present you a check for $45,000 for OVS and the tremendous work that you do with us in the community. So come over here. Can we get, sorry, Michael, can you come up here as well? Sorry. Right. And Susan Ingram from Big Brothers Big Sisters, $45,000 as well. So we just opened up our website, and if you look on Charity Village, we are looking for our charities for the 2018 gala. So we're looking forward to the gala this fall, and we're looking forward to selecting two great charities that are well-deserving. So thank you very much. Merci.
Thank you, Chief. And before I begin our meeting, first of all, I'd like to officially, on behalf of my colleagues, on behalf of the service, to welcome Member Borstein. Andrea, welcome to the board. Wish you all the best. I see your daughter here. She was, Lily, can you wave? So she's here to witness. And also the vice chair brought his daughter with him. Ali, come on, can you wave? I don't have any kids, but if anybody wants to be mine, it's okay. So I didn't bring my kids to work today. Also, we have a number of my colleagues here. I think they came in to witness me being elected again as a chair. Councillor Egloy, Councillor Dutse, Councillor Dean, and Councillor Kadri, the chair of Crime Prevention Ottawa. Before I begin our meeting, I just want to, first of all, say a few words on behalf of our board. For 2018, it's going to be a busy and a challenging year. Opioids, legalization of the marijuana, guns and gang, PSA change, process for a new deputy chief, provincial and municipal election, in case you haven't heard about the election in 2018. Some exciting work already underway for the upcoming, we have the Diversity Audit, Equity and Diversity Inclusion Office, 2019-2021 Business Plan. The board is looking forward to working with the service on these areas. Also, the board is looking forward to engaging with the community. The delivery of accurate and effective police service require the engagement and participation of the community. The police are the public, and the public are the police. One of the most quoted Peel principle. With all the changes in policing, there's a real opportunity here for all of us. Looking forward, folks, to work with you in 2018. With that, we'll begin our official part of the meeting. Confirmation of the agenda, that the Ottawa Police Service Board confirmed the agenda of 29 January 2018. Is the agenda confirmed? Confirmation of minute of December 18, 2017. The Ottawa Police Service Board confirmed the minute of the 18 December 2017 meeting. Confirmed, thank you. Declaration of interest? No. Okay. So we had a committee meeting report from Chair Nicholson. Is the Policy and Governance Committee met on December 12, 2017. I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. The Policy and Governance Committee met on December 12th, and we received a summary report from the police service on sort of the midterm refresh of the 2016-2018 business plan. We also received a presentation from two Carleton University professors on strategic planning in policing organizations. And we used the remainder of the meeting to talk about the 2019-2021 strategic plan, or as our OPS would put it, business plan. And so we discussed the kind of the key deliverables and the milestone and the board's role in that planning cycle. So stay tuned, there's going to be more. We also met, by the way, Mr. Chair, on January 19th, and I know those minutes are not in our documents, although there is one document in today's documents that emanates from that meeting On January 19th, we did a wrap-up of the 2017 board work plan, and then we reviewed the 2018 work plan for the board. So, and indeed, you have those documents in our, so that's what we did, Mr. Chair.
Okay. On committee report, received, thank you. Inquiries, I know Madame Belcat, would you like to read your inquiry now? Okay.
Since December 2016, on behalf of the board, I've been a member of the Community Advisory Group, also known as the CAG, to the SI program, which is the Service Initiative Program. Members of the board have been receiving notes from the monthly meetings of the CAG, as well as quarterly updates from the SI program. The Community Advisory Group and board have been advised that the SI program is due to sunset in April of this year. Given the level of investment on the part of the organization over the course of this program, it would be prudent for the board to hear from the chief about the successes that have been realized, in particular the benefits that have been achieved financially and through improved service delivery before the final report due at the April board meeting. We have also heard that many of the projects and initiatives will not fully realize their potential for several years. It would be of interest to the board to know how initiatives will be tracked and reported to the board. This way, we can remain informed of the outcomes and if indeed they were actually implemented. I would therefore request that the chair provide following direction to the chief to provide the board with a presentation on the benefits realized by the SI program and inform the board of the go-forward plans for any work that may be ongoing or longer term. Okay.
That's an inquiry. Thank you very much, Madam Belcat.
I have a second one.
You have a second?
I have a second.
By all means, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You've often mentioned to us that the Montreal Police Service has a higher percentage of women in their workforce. I would be very interested in knowing what are they doing that perhaps we could be doing as well. So I would like to officially ask that someone contact the Montreal Police Service and find out what procedures or what policies they have in place that are encouraging more women to join their force. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Belcat. Any other inquiries? Okay. So we'll go to our agenda. Item of business, item number 1, the chief's verbal report. We'll hold item number 1. Item number 2, the Ottawa Police Service Board Work Plan 2018. This is a Policy and Governing Committee report that the Ottawa Police Service Board approved the 2018 Board Work Plan. On the item? Okay. Okay, thank you. Item number 3, the Ontario Association of Police Service Boards 2018 membership renewal. On the item, okay. Okay. Item number 4, appointment of Special Constable, Ottawa Police Service, that the Ottawa Police Service Board approved the appointment of the Ottawa Police the OPS member listed in Document 1 as a Special Constable pursuant to Section 53 of the Police Service Act in accordance with the terms and conditions set forth in the attached approval of appointment form. On the item? Okay. Item number 5 is also reappointment of Special Constable for the Ottawa Police Service. It's basically it's the same thing. So on the item, okay, without reading. Item number 6, also appointment of Special Constable, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, that the Ottawa Police Service Board approved the appointment of individual listed in Document 1 as a Special Constable pursuant to Section 53 of the Police Service Act in accordance with the term and conditions set forth in the attached approval of appointment form. On the item, okay. Item number 7 is the Board Activities, Training and Performance 2017 Annual Report. That the Ottawa Police Service Board, 1, received this report for information, 2, direct the Executive Director to forward this report to the City Council for information. On the item? Carry and receive. Thank you. Item number 8, the board calendar of monitoring requirement 2018, that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive the 2018 calendar of monitoring requirement for information. Receive. Item number 9 is the schedule of conferences and CAPG webinars in 2018, that the Executive Director's report that the Ottawa Police Service Board received this report for information. Okay. Item number 10 is 2016-2018 Business Plan Semi-Annual Report, that the Ottawa Police Service Board received this report for information. Item number 11, the Ottawa Police Service Accessibility for Ontarians with Disability Act Status Report, that the Ottawa Police Service Board received this report for information. Item number 12, collection of identifying information, duty and preparation policy annual report, and I believe we have some question for item 12. We'll hold item 12. Item 13, secondary activity 2017 annual report, chief's report, that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Item received. Item number 14, public rewards, 2017 annual report, chief's report, that the Ottawa Police Service Board received this report for information. Item number 15, appointment made under the Interprovincial Policing Act, 2017 annual report, chief's report, that the Ottawa Police Service Board received this report for information. Item 16, report on SIU investigation. I believe Member Small would ask for that item to be held. Item 16. Item 17 is a legal service status report 2017 fourth quarter board solicitor report, that the Ottawa Police Service Board received this report for information. Item received. Item 18, outstanding board inquiries in motion, January 2018. Executive Director report, that the Ottawa Police Service Board received this report for information. Let's receive. Item 19, letter of commendation, chief's report, that the Ottawa Police Service Board received this report for information. Thank you. And we'll go to item 1, which is the chief's verbal report. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to start off by congratulating you and the Vice Chair for your reappointment as Chair and Vice Chair, and welcome Member Blaustein to the board as well. Looking forward to working alongside with you. First, I'd like to focus most of the verbal report on the issue of gun violence in our city. As the board is aware, we held a briefing for the Mayor and the Chair to discuss our enforcement strategies last Friday. Like many larger cities across Canada, Ottawa has seen an increase in shootings over the last few years. I can tell you that the gun violence we have seen since the start of the year is our top priority and is receiving organization-wide attention. That includes our frontline patrol officers, our drug unit, our DART team, our intelligence units, our surveillance teams, street crime unit, and our guns and gangs unit. Our enforcement strategy is based on investigation and suppression. We are also heavily involved in intervention and prevention. We've seen 12 shootings since the start of the year, many of them resulting in injury and in 2 deaths. Every incident is being investigated, and we are following up on all leads. Our investigators are working to hold those responsible accountable, and I'm confident in the investigations that are being conducted on these files and the leadership that is in place. The evidence so far links these shootings to a small number of criminals. These persons are of interest, are often involved in drug trafficking and other serious criminal offenses. They're using weapons for protection, retribution, and to intimidate their competitors. This trend of criminals arming themselves with crime guns is being seen in a number of major Canadian cities. As I said, we are using all investigative and enforcement techniques at our disposal to target those responsible and their associates. That includes conducting compliance checks on those already charged but released in the community on conditions. This past weekend, teams of frontline officers were assigned to check on some of these individuals. Those checks resulted in about 40 compliance checks, as well as more than 30 patrols of problem addresses that are areas of interest to our investigators. Our DART unit continues to be very active. Last week, they assisted with the arrest of a high-profile organized crime member wanted by Vancouver Police for homicide. They conducted compliance checks on persons of interest to our investigations. In one traffic stop, they seized 350 grams of marijuana and cash, which led to possession for the purpose of trafficking charges that are being laid. They also took part in community outreach in the Michelle Heights area. But investigations and frontline actions are only part of our strategy. Our school resource officers are actively working with our 4 school boards to identify people who could be involved in these activities now or in the future, and working to intervene with community partners. Our community police center officers continue to engage with counselors, residents, and community safety committees to provide information when an incident occurs. They work proactively to address community safety concerns. This is an organization-wide effort, and these activities will continue. We will continue to make arrests, seize guns, and carry out investigations targeted at these criminals, just as we saw during Project Sabotage, where 14 people were arrested and 24 illegal guns were seized. There's more work to do, and we need the public's assistance. Our message to the public is that if you know of someone with an illegal gun, we need to know about it. We also need our community members to cooperate with our investigations when they have important information. You can call us directly or through Crime Stoppers if you want to remain anonymous. These enforcement efforts are shorter-term solutions. We must continue to support the longer-term work already underway with the City of Ottawa's street violence and gang strategy. That work is being led through Crime Prevention Ottawa and involves important partnerships with organizations like John Howard Society, Ottawa Community Housing, and our local school boards. The focus needs to continue to be on early intervention and those young people who are engaging in these activities or potentially engaging in these activities. Mr. Chair, I also want to update the board on some of the activities in preparation for Bill 163, which is the Safe Access Zone to Abortion Services Act, which comes into effect on Thursday, February 1st. Our special events section has been actively working on this issue since the announcement of the legislation, and has been working with the Provincial Crown's Office to ensure that it will be enforced appropriately and that all measures to educate stakeholders and the public are undertaken. Officers from our police liaison team have met on site with known protest groups and individuals to educate them about the new Safe Access Zone and to show them its limits. We have also met with the Morgentaler Clinic security and supervisors. We have created a frontline response protocol for officers regarding the new legislation that includes maps of the Safe Access Zone. Officers have been working with the City of Ottawa to post signs that clearly mark the access zone around the clinic. And officers will also be on site on the first days when the legislation comes into force. And finally, Mr. Chair, later this year, we will be seeing marijuana become legal across Canada. As the board can appreciate, there are a number of issues and challenges that the pending legislation creates for our service, our partners, including the City of Ottawa, and the broader community. I've asked Deputy Chief Skinner to lead an implementation project to prepare and address our obligations under the new and pending legislation. The Deputy and her team are prepared to provide the board with an update on the plan to be ready for new legislation at the February board meeting that will take place in February. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's my board report.
Thank you very much, Chief. We'll start with Member Hubley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, you told us that you'd give us some updates on the implementation for the legalized marijuana. I attended the Zone 2 meeting in November, I believe it was, with the OPP and the Eastern Ontario forces. And what was discussed there from the provincial rep was that there's going to be a need to store and nurture any plants that are seized. Have you got any information on how we're going to take care of that?
Mr. Chair, that is one of the areas that has been identified as an issue that I know the OECP is dealing with. It's problematic for local police services. It's part of the work plan to see exactly if that is the final requirement, that we address that appropriately. But I think there's still some advocating that's taking place to ensure that, see if we can mitigate that.
And I believe through your work with the Association of Police Chiefs, you've asked for a delay in the implementation. Have you got any kind of a response from that?
No. All indications are is that the bill is being implemented as directed by the federal government.
Okay, so when will we get our first update? Because like just in that issue of the storage, we'd have to buy or rent a facility. You obviously don't have, and neither does the city, have the experts on how to nurture these plants and everything, because the past history is we just burn them, correct?
Yeah, the purpose of the work that Deputy Chief Skinner is leading is to identify all those issues and to identify exactly what we need to be able to resolve them. So you'll get a sense of that is one issue, but there are other broader issues that we have to contend with as an employer, but also as a police service, and those are all being identified now, and we'll be presenting that to the board in February.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Member Velica. Then I'll come to you.
Could you tell us what happens to someone who walks in front of the clinic, the Morgentaler Clinic, if they are protesters and they go beyond the zone? What happens to them, and how do they get charged, and is there a fine as well?
Right now, they've worked out a plan with the provincial prosecutor. They are going to warn them, obviously, to ensure that the person is aware that they're not allowed within that zone. There is a Part 3, which is a court date. There's no set fine, and there is an expectation that there may be some people that challenge the law.
Member Smallwood. Thank you, Madam Velica.
Thank you. Yes, Chief, I wanted to commend you on your stressing of the importance of early intervention with respect to the spate of criminal action activities that we've seen recently. I think that we all know how important that is and how critical it is to working forward. In terms of what's happening right now, one of the things that you've mentioned a few times is that there's much more likelihood to use guns when there's some sort of disagreement. And I wondered, given the success of Project Sabotage, I recall when I went to the launch, or the information that was released on Project Sabotage, it was mentioned that it was the first time in a decade such an undertaking had been enacted. And I wondered, should you decide to do a similar type of thing to try to remove guns, if that's your decision, do you have sufficient resources currently to undertake a similar type project?
Yeah, through the chair. Sabotage was a great success, and thank you for acknowledging that. We were really happy with the results we got from that. That was a unique project because that was the first time in a decade that we'd used a certain type of technique of using a police agent. So we've done other gun-related investigations, and we plan to continue that. In late 2017, we did a realignment within our covert ops section, our covert operations, which includes our drug unit, our surveillance unit, our intelligence unit, and our guns and gangs unit, to augment resources in the guns and gangs unit by 4 investigators. Our intention moving ahead is to try and look at those investigations, those larger scale, longer term investigations as a technique to use. But what else we're going to do is we're looking to realign all of the resources in covert ops at this time to tackle that project, or to augment teams as we need them if we're going to try and do an investigation like that. So in the short term, we do have the resources we need, but I believe the Chief's going to talk about our growth plan as we move ahead, and as the service does grow, that is an area that we would look at putting more resources.
Mr. Chair, you recall that the board did approve our 3-year hiring plan of 75 officers, which concludes this year, 2018. 50 of those officers have been assigned to the front line as development opportunity positions, which allow our front lines not to run short when a member goes on development opportunities.
The other 25 will be assigned as well to our frontline operations throughout the year. We've put forth in our draft budget a plan to hire another 90 officers over the next 3 years, which will help support the difficult work our officers are doing and the changing and the complexity of crimes that are taking place in our community.
Chief, more than once we heard time and time again from experts in the field, combating guns and gangs is not just police alone, and if any success, we need to focus on the sibling don't join the gangs, because we've been around for quite some time, and we work with the Crime Prevention Ottawa, John Howard Society, and other about trying to really help whoever wants to exit the gang. But one important area we heard from these folks is to make the investment in the sibling or in a young sibling so they don't join the gang member. Now, have you thought about injecting some retired police officer, because they have the expertise in investigation and they are retired, to work with the school resource officer, because resources is very, and we've seen some of our retirees do background checks and other for the service. Have you ever thought maybe adding more to the school resource, to that area where they can focus on the young siblings so they don't basically get attracted by the gang's activities and avoid them from joining the gang? Have something like this we give us some consideration?
Mr. Chair, the way the Siblings Project works, and I know Nancy Worsfold is here from Crime Prevention Ottawa, it is a great partnership, and it is a program that is seeing the starts of a lot of success. Not only do our school resource officers that are embedded in our schools across the city, they're able to identify and work with the teachers and the principals and those who may be veering towards that type of criminal activity, or that where their families are engaged, and our school resource officers have that knowledge because they get the information from our Guns and Gangs unit. Our Guns and Gangs officers are very aware of the individuals that are involved in gang activities. They are the primary source of focus with respect to referring and identifying those families and those siblings that are living in that lifestyle, and that they work closely with Crime Prevention Ottawa and the John Howard Society and the partners that are involved in that siblings project. So there is a very good sharing information between our gangs, Guns and Gangs people, and our school resource officers that are doing the work. We had not anticipated or thought of using retired officers. That's certainly something we can bring to Crime Prevention Ottawa and see exactly do they have enough referrals? Do we need to increase those numbers, and see if there's that opportunity.
Thank you, Chief. On the Chief's verbal report, received. Thank you. The next item was held is the item number 12, and I know Member Small would have questions, but I'll start with Sandy and then I'll turn it to Mr. Vice Chair. I'll start with you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With regards to that report, I noticed that a comment that was made that the SIU investigation report, I noticed there were comments made that both officers were long overdue for training as set out in the Ottawa Police Service Policy 8.08. And I'm just wondering if you can tell the board whether or not that is a widespread...
So I thought you'd talk about item number 12 first, before the 16.
Oh, I'm sorry.
About the collection.
Oh, yeah, okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm leaping ahead here.
That's okay.
Yeah, with respect to that, there were reports in the media about the saying that the number of interactions had gone from thousands down to 7. And I'm just wondering if you could clarify that. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that is in fact correct. In 2015, we had in the range of 7,000 street checks. In 2016, we had in the range of 4,000 street checks, and in 2017, after the change in the legislation, we had 4 regulated interactions. They have indeed gone down. All of the information that was collected in the first set of street checks isn't directly comparable to the numbers that we're seeing in regulated interactions. Some of them, the initial street checks wouldn't qualify as regulated interactions. All that to say, the collection of that type of information has drastically dropped off, and it's something that we're looking at, something that we want to continue to work with the province and the community on, to look at how we can find the balance in collecting the right amount of information or right sources of information, because they really assist our investigations.
So, if I can add as well, so you're well aware that Justice Tulloch is conducting a review of that new legislation, and we've provided input into that entire review process to see exactly, to make sure that our officers do have the right tools to keep our community safe.
So I just want to be clear then, so that the numbers didn't drop from thousands down to 7. It dropped from thousands down to maybe hundreds or something because they don't qualify and they're not listed?
So it's a different number. It's a difficult number to actually quantify because you're comparing apples and oranges. It dropped from when we were collecting considerable amounts of information to very little last year as we're looking to integrate the new regulations.
It's safe to say we don't have an apples to apples number then to compare?
No, we don't.
So let me ask you the question different way. So clearly, the number is not matching with the new legislation. And it's not just for Ottawa. We heard other services larger than us also, they're not collecting the information. Is this something because it's a new legislation and our folks are not comfortable with it? Because we made investment in training. And you know as well as I do, it was quite substantial investment for training, and we have not seen the result. But if it's just because something new, we can understand, because other services, not just Ottawa, Peel is almost twice the population of Ottawa, they only had 20 interactions. So I'm just wondering, is it training? Is it something new? Are we trying to avoid the interaction because it's not clear, or sometimes media or other labeling those officers with different brushes? Like, we need to be, at least tell our community what is happening out there and why the number dropped, you said, from 4,000 to 4. So that's quite a bit of number. So I'm just trying to understand, and it's not just Ottawa issue. It seems like it's across the province. I'd like to know what's driving those, the lack of interaction, if that's for a better word.
So, Mr. Chair, I think it's all of those things. I think you accurately captured it. It's new legislation that's difficult and cumbersome. The very way that officers are asked to engage with members of the public to collect the information is clunky, and it doesn't flow naturally. Beyond that, there is concern by officers about their exposure to the oversight system as they start to engage in this legislation, in the activity. All of those things put together have, I think, contributed to dropping the number. There's no doubt. But it's not only us that's recognizing that. I think we're seeing the province, through the review that Justice Tulloch is looking to undertake, they've also recognized that this is valuable information to policing. It's would greatly contributes to investigations, and it's something that we need to find the balance. We spent 3 days with Justice Tulloch in November providing information about how we collect information, how we engage in these, what the drop off in that source of information has meant to the police, and he took away some valuable insight from us on things that we believe could positively contribute to collecting more information. There's very legitimate community concerns that have been raised over our previous collection, or policing's previous collection of information. So we need to now work with the province and the community to try and find the balance of what's the right amount of information for us to collect, and how do we use it moving ahead.
Do we have time on And Justice Tulloch's reporting, because I think as a board also we met with the justice and the service did, is there a time when he will be releasing his recommendation or his reporting on this?
So when he left us in November, he indicated that he was intending to come back to Ottawa in February for community consultations. Beyond that, he had in the area of 60 some odd police services that he was going to be looking to talk to, but that he hoped to have it done in this year to have new recommendations put forward to the province. So I'm not sure at which point in this year it's going to be completed. He still had lots of work and lots of consultation to do, but it was to be in this year.
Now, if it's when we talk about collection of identifying information, is that different? Collecting criminal information, criminal investigation information, is it different or is it the same we're talking about?
So I think the easiest way to explain it is that any regulated interaction is supposed to be centered around criminality. That's the very basis for why we want our officers to be out having discussions with people and collecting information. The information around criminality is very valuable to us. Where criminals are at different times of day, what kind of vehicles they're in, who they're hanging around with, where they live. That's all really valuable information that we want to get. So I think it's very difficult to separate the regulated interactions and another criminal investigation, because always the basis for why we're looking to collect this information centers around criminality and people involved in it.
Okay, any other question from my colleague? Okay, obviously as a board we need to be still get some of the information, and if Justice Tulloch coming to our city, we like to be invited to the, because I was looking a little bit back, I think that's before your days in police in the early 80s when the charter flight was established, and I think we heard a lot of pushback from law enforcement across the country, and then in no time it was adopted and then become a tool, is used and successfully, and now it's something, but I mean, I find it ironically, if we're not collecting the information, but we're asking the community to help us by providing information, I find it is a little bit disheartening to ask the community to, when we are not collecting some of the information. That's what I'm challenged with.
Yeah, so we'll make sure to, when we're advised, when Justice Tulloch's coming back, to make sure the board's made aware of it. I think the important thing to remember is this is the first annual report. This report provides us a 7-month snapshot of information that we've collected. I think this is a conversation that's still going to happen. There's work to do on this regulated interaction legislation. The province recognizes that. I think the community recognizes that, and definitely police services recognize that. So I don't think this is the end of the road. I think we have a lot of conversation and some adoption and changes to this legislation still to come that will help us find that balance between community privacy concerns and what police need to know or police want to know in order to conduct criminal investigations.
Okay, thank you, Deputy. So on item 12, is the item received? Received, thank you. Now we'll go to item 16. Mr. Vice Chair, you held item 16.
Thank you. I'd forgotten that 16 comes after 12. So back to my question earlier, just with respect to the SIU investigation, the comment that both officers were long overdue for training is set out in the Ottawa Police Service policy. I'm just wondering if you can tell the board whether or not that's widespread throughout the service. Are there other officers that are lacking in training, or can you just bring us up to date so we know where we sit as far as the training of the other officers? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I've asked for an audit to be conducted to see, to get that understanding and to see how we are with respect to the objectives and the requirements of our service policy. So I'll be getting the results of that audit within a week or two.
Would the expectation, assuming the audit comes back and says there is some deficiency, would the process then be to rectify that immediately?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. Our objective is to ensure that any mandatory training that's dictated by the province, that whether it's adequacy standards or this type of legislation here, training that our officers and the police service is compliant.
Thank you, Member Smallwood. Any other question on this item? The item received. So, folks, this will conclude our meeting and the open session. So I'd like to move in camera consideration of motion to move in camera that the Ottawa Police Service Board adjourn this public portion of its meeting to move in camera to discuss confidential item pertaining to a legal and personnel matter in accordance with Section 35 4B of the Police Service Act. Moved by Velica. So